this is Nadia with Everything Stitching. In this video, I am making something out of yarn and twine. Can you guys guess what it is? Possibly, maybe from the picture, the thumbnail. I am making a crocheted pumpkin with almost a real life looking stem. This one is a blast. You guys can make small ones, big ones, and decorate with them this fall. It is so much fun because you can make them all different colors and sizes and go with like the color scheme of your decorations in your house, or go completely fall themed with your oranges and your greens and your browns. Either way, it's going to be a blast. You're going to have so much fun, and they're actually surprisingly pretty easy to make. So follow along with me and let's get stitching. Okay, so to get started with our pumpkin, I have a bunch of different yarns here, all different types, because as we're going through all the different rows, we're going to just add in thread as we go, or yarn I should say. So right now I'm starting off, and they're all going to be the medium weight for yarn. Okay, so right now I'm going to start off with this Super Saver, but it's like this kind of fallish colors, and then I've got the fall orange pumpkin color, and then I'm throwing in this green right now, and then later on we've got some darker greens to put in. We got this cream beige color. This is just a random color to throw in. It just makes it really fun. I even have this, I know it's not very fallish, but once it's all together, it's gonna be really fun. Okay, so we're gonna be working with 3 at a time. So what you're gonna first do is go ahead and make a slip knot, which is gonna be our first step. And you know what? I'm gonna trade out for my number, I'm gonna try number 8 right now for the yarn, crochet needle, and then we'll kind of see how, or hook I should say, and then see how we like it with these 3. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead, make a slip knot, and then chain, ooh, I like the number 8, chain 30. You can chain as many as you want, but whoop, I like the 30. I think it makes a pretty good sized pumpkin. And I just love working with 3 yarns at once because it just gives you so much like color and dimension, and it really changes the look of your craft than if you're just using one of the yarns. Okay, so let's just work through this. We're going to chain 30, and then once we chain 30, I'm going to show you what to do. And basically you're going to be doing 2 rows of the pattern as we go. So it's pretty simple. Once I show you how to do the 2 rows, then you basically do the same 2 rows over and over and over again until you make your giant pumpkin. Well, not giant, but good sized pumpkin. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, chain 30, and then I'll meet you back here. Okay, so I've chained 30, and now what I'm going to do is chain 1 more, because it'll be like our chain up one. So you're actually going to do 31, and then the second chain from the hook in the back loop only, you're going to do a single crochet. So it's always trickier to find the back loop right after you do your chain, and then once we get started, it's easier. But this first one's always tricky. But go ahead and get your hook through the back loop only, and then single crochet, and then you're going to do that into 10 stitches. So that was 1. Oh my gosh, it is so tough to find it in the back loop of your chain. I don't like working in the chain. Okay, Bear with me as I find it. Okay, we have this one, this one. Where's our chain? Come on. You know what? It doesn't help that I crocheted this really tight. Okay, so to make our pumpkin, you're gonna need all different colors of yarn to make this one. So basically after every 2 rows, you're going to switch out 2 of the yarns, keeping one of your yarns as like your base yarn color. And I'm thinking, for me, I'm gonna choose my pumpkin orange color for my base yarn that I'm just keeping with it the whole time. And then every 2 rows, I'm gonna switch out 2 other yarns. And I'll show you guys how to do that, so don't panic. And so to get started, go ahead and do a slip knot, and then we're going to chain 31 total. Now, don't do your chain too tight, because in this pattern, we're going to be working in the back loop only. And when you're working in the back loop, it's kind of tricky when you're working into a chain in the back loop only. I don't mind working in the back loop once we get started and we're working on like the single crochet and the half double crochets in the back loop only, because it just sticks out more. But when you're working on the back loop only of your chain, it's kind of tricky to find it. Plus it's even trickier when you're doing it with 3 yarns like we are right now. So go ahead and chain 31 and don't do it too tight. I love crocheting, but for some reason my problem with crocheting is that I crochet so stinking tight. But you know, I think I do that on most things that I do in life. Like I notice, like even if I'm gonna like tighten down like a bolt or a screw into something, yeah, I do too much. Okay, let me count, see how far I am, and make sure that I didn't do it too tight. And then I'm going to show you what to do on the first row. So get to chaining 31 and then meet me back here. Okay, so I've got 31. Now from the second stitch from the hook, so not the first one, but the second one, you're going to go into the back loop only. And like I said, it's kind of tricky when you're working on your chain, but basically you're going to go into the back loop only, and you're going to single crochet for 10 stitches in the back loop only. Then after you single crochet, look, I still did it too tight. Even though I was telling myself, don't do it too tight. Take it down a notch. So once you single crochet into the back loop only for 10 of your stitches, then you're going to do 10 stitches in the back loop only, doing half double crochet, and then the remaining 10 stitches are going to be single crochet, and all of this is going to be in the back loop only. So let's work through all this. We're going to do 10 single crochets in the back loop, 10 half double crochets in the back loop, and then 10 single crochets in the back loop, and then I will meet you at that end to show you what to do on the next row. Okay, so I finished this row. We did 10 single crochets, 10 half double crochets, and then 10 single crochets. Now I'm actually working on the last single crochet right now, but I did not finish the single crochet because we need to work in our 2 new colors. So what I did was I clipped off our 2 colors that we're not going to be using and leave a very long tail, and then leave your orange because that's going to be your base color, right? Well, at least it's my base color. I don't know what your base color is. So I think what I'm going to do is bring in this dark green color, and I'm going to bring in this creamish colored one right now. So we've got dark green, and then we've got this cream, and then we still have the orange attached to it, right? So now you're going to get your orange, and as if we were going to finish it, you're going to get your orange and your two new colors. And you're just going to start crocheting. Oh my gosh, I think my camera's focusing on it. Yeah. Crocheting with it as if you've been using these three colors the whole time. So we finished the single crochet with those two, and then chain one to chain up. Then you're going to turn your work, and as you work through this pumpkin, you're going to have a lot of tail action right here, which is totally fine. We will handle that later. So now that you've chained one, now our next row, remember what I told you in the beginning, there's going to be basically the same two rows over and over and over. So the first row is going to be 10 single crochets, 10 half double crochets, and then 10 single crochets. Now on our next row, after we chain one, instead of doing 10 single crochets, you're actually going to do 7 single crochets, then 16 half double crochets, and then 7 single crochets, chain one, and then go back the same way of 10, 10, 10. So we're just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And you're going to see it's going to make this really cool looking pattern. So we're going to go ahead and chain, or not chain, we're going to do 7 single crochets. So 1, 2, make sure you got all of them. 3, 5, 6, and 7. So now that I did my 7 single crochets, now I'm going to do 16 half double crochets. And then after that, 7 single crochets, and I'll meet you at the end. Okay, so I finished that row. I chained one. I did 10 single crochets now, and now I'm going to do 10 double crochets, or I'm sorry, 10 half double crochets. So now I'm going to do 10 half double crochets in the back loop only. Sorry, we're getting a bit. Okay, hold on. Back loop. Here we go. Okay. So we're going to do those 10, and then we're going to do 10 single crochets, and then we're going to get to the end, and then don't finish off your last single crochet, do like half of it, right? And then you're going to switch it out, or switch out 2 of your yarns for 2 new ones, and then I will be using my base orange color, and then whatever your base color is, you're going to use. But do you see how it's not straight? This is on purpose that it's not straight, because when we make our pumpkin, it's actually going to like look like a pumpkin because it's not going to be straight. So it's for a reason, and you're doing a great job. And what I like about this is you don't have to keep track counting too much, especially if you use your stitch markers right at your first, and then you know where your 10th one is, and then on that second row it's 7 instead of 10, so it's not too difficult to keep track of where you're at and having to count all the time. Okay, speaking of, I think that was it. Let me double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That was the 10th one. Okay, So actually I think I did one too many, as I was just talking about not counting. Okay, so I'm actually going to do 10 single crochets now. So 1, 2, 3, what the, that's twisting. 3, sorry, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're almost at the end where we're going to need to switch out. So here's the 10th one. We're going to pull through, but instead of finishing it, we're actually going to leave our long orange one, which is our base, and then these two I'm going to cut so you have a long tail, and then move them out of the way so we don't cross-contaminate. Let's bring in this fun new color, and then we'll do since we're doing a fun new color, let's bring in purple for fun. Okay, so we've got purple, and then we have our orange that's still on there, and we're just going to lay it down as if we've been working with it the whole time. Pull through and chain 1. Turn your work. And since that last row was doing 10, 10, 10, this row we're going to do 7 single crochets, 16 half double crochets, and then 7 single crochets. So you guys get what the pattern is now, and you get that every 2 rows you're going to switch out 2 of your colors. So that's what you're going to do now, is just keep working through and through and through, and then until you have pretty much the size that you want, and then I will show you how to finish up your pumpkin, and we'll meet back here. So it'll probably be a much bigger sized piece when you see me again. Okay, so now that we have completed all of our rows, I ended up going and making it about 14 inches long, but you can make it shorter or longer. It just really depends on how big you want your pumpkin to be. So how it's going to look, and that way you know how big to make it, is this is going to be the circumference of your pumpkin when you turn it this way. Now remember, when you stuff it, it's also going to kind of push it out a bit. So that's why I was kind of happy with this size, because it's not big. I'd say it's on the smaller side, but it'll be really cute for decoration. So now what we need to do is crochet by slip stitching our edges together. Now, to find out which way you want to do it, you're going to put your 2 edges together. Now, if you put these 2 edges together, you're doing the V's that are touching, right? Instead of these divots in between like all the other ones are. So let's flip it this way. And this side looks better because it'll go along with the pattern a little bit better. So I'm going to make sure I flip it this way when I work on it. So what you're going to want to do is get the base color yarn that you were using throughout your entire pumpkin. So for me, it was orange. If it was a different color for you, then go ahead and use whatever your base color was. And what you're going to want to do is line up your pumpkin side seams like so. It's got a little bit of black thread yarn coming through. Line it up, make sure you know what you're doing, and you're going to start at one end and make your slip knot. Okay, and then we're going to slip stitch our entire pumpkin together. So you're gonna get your both of your sides, whoop. Let me get that, hold on. Both of your sides together. To get it started, I like to do it like as if it's a single crochet on that first stitch to just really secure it. And then I go in and I do a slip stitch into that same stitch. And then I know that ain't going nowhere. Now remember, this is going to end up being the inside of your pumpkin, so don't be too concerned about the look of it on this side. So this is going to be the inside. We're basically just going to be turning it right side out as soon as we're done going down our entire pumpkin. And then this part of it is going to end up being the bottom of your pumpkin, and this is going to be at the top where we're going to use some twine to make a stem for the pumpkin. It's going to look really cool. Oh no, I'm catching other yarns. Okay, so just go ahead and slowly work your way through stitch by stitch. It's going to take a bit because it is so bulky with the 3 threads or 3 strands of yarn that we used. So just get yourself some iced tea or coffee and sit down, put on a show that you enjoy watching, and work through this. Or put on some more of my videos. Not that I'm partial, right? So yeah, just work through all of this, and then once you get down to the end, you're going to tie off like normal, weave in your ends, and then at that point, I'm going to show you how we are going to close up the bottom and then make it right side out. Okay, that one's a tough one. Like I said, take your time. Don't get frustrated. It's going to be difficult on certain parts because of how bulky all these layers can be. Once we turn it inside out and stuff the bottom, or not stuff the bottom, close at the bottom, then we're going to stuff it. And then after that comes the really fun, exciting part, and that is the part where we get to make the stem for the pumpkin. Okay, I'm going to work through all this, get down to the bottom, and meet you guys there. Okay, so now that we have slip stitched this side seam together, now it's like a cylinder. Now what we're going to do is this side, the side with all your long hairs, we are going to go ahead and close it up with our twine. And then after we get it closed up with the twine, then we're going to use the twine to actually make our stem of the pumpkin too. So get your twine threaded. It's not very fun to work with twine, but for a pumpkin, since you want it to kind of look somewhat natural, especially for the stem, that's why I like using it instead of like making a yarn stem. Okay, so what you're gonna do is basically weave in and out of the bottom of your pumpkin. Yep. Just weave it in and out. back and forth all the way around. And because it's twine, you're gonna notice that it's gonna be tricky in some spots to pull through. And you know what? That's totally normal, and that's gonna happen. So just take it slow, don't get ticked off, and just muscle it all the way around. And we're getting closer to the end. I notice if you sorry, if you try and go through the whole round like before pulling it, it really gets stuck with the twine. So that's why I take it like a couple of stitches at a time. And then here we are already. We're already almost here. And then basically where we began, because see, we have the twine right here, and pull that through. Okay, now what we're gonna do is work on closing this hole as much as we can by just tightening it. Now, you're gonna get it to a point where there's like a tiny hole still, and then that one you're gonna just close up with the remaining twine that we have here. So don't get nervous when you're pulling it and then you're like, oh my gosh, I can't close it anymore, because that happens. Okay, I think we're at that point now. So now that we're at that point, you kind of want to just make sure that all of your hairs of your pumpkin are still on this side of it. That way when we flip it right side out, they're not going to be sticking through. Worst case scenario, if you miss any, you can just weave them back through. So it's not like it's going to be the end of the world if you don't. Okay, so once you tighten it as much as you can, you're going to go ahead and make a knot and another knot, so it doesn't just keep undoing itself, right? Okay, now get your twine, the end with your needle. Now, as you can see, the hole is not very big at all now, so we actually got it pretty small. It's not going to hold water, but it's pretty dang small, so I'm actually pretty happy with it. So now just go ahead and weave, not weave, but close in by just hand stitching it closed. And you're gonna notice it's gonna be, I should have thought of a song. It's gonna be. But what I was gonna say is it's gonna be kind of tough, and that's normal and okay, because you're working with a lot of yarn and you're working with twine. So both of those factors give you an outcome of something that's kind of hard to work with, but have no fear, because a couple of things. It's the bottom of the pumpkin, so you're only going to see it when you look at the bottom. And then second of all, it's a decoration pumpkin, so like if there's a tiny hole on the bottom, you're going to be fine. Nobody's going to come knocking on your door and be like, you have a tiny hole on the bottom of your decoration pumpkin. No, nobody's going to do that. So let's see, it fills pretty good actually. So what I'm going to do So you just want to kind of just put your hand in there and see if you can feel like your finger can still go through. But if it's feeling pretty good, then get your twine and tie it again. Okay. Now, I'm gonna clip this. And remember, oh, okay, isn't that easy? I should use my other scissors. Remember, this is all gonna be the inside, so don't even worry about leaving all this in, right? That's what's so nice about it. Now, turn it right side out and leave this one long. You actually want this one long, the one that you want sewing in. So look, see, it actually looks like a bottom of a real pumpkin, right? Because it's not supposed to be absolutely perfect. And you kind of just work it. And then our next step is to stuff it. Now, you can stuff it with stuffing. You can stuff it with, if you have like a whole bunch of plastic bags, if you have a whole bunch of yarn scraps or fabric scraps or whatever you have. I am actually going to use, let me find it. I have Crafters polyfill. It's like the really dense, scratchy one that I didn't realize when I bought it. So it's not good for pillows because like you can actually fill it through the fabric. But this is a decoration pumpkin, so we're good to go to use this. Okay, so just be patient and really, really stuff this puppy solid. And what we're going to be doing is making our the rest of the stem out of more of this twine, and it's going to look really, really cool because it's going to look natural. So see how it's coming out, and you don't want it to be shaped perfectly. You want it to be a little funky, right? Because that's like what a real gourd or pumpkin would look like. So when you have this thing displayed in your house or on your porch or whatever, it's going to look really cool. So don't like freak out if you're like, oh my gosh, it's not completely circular. Okay, well, neither are any of the pumpkins you go picking. Okay, so then once you get it how you want it, you're then basically going to close up the top of this with your thread using twine. And then we're going to add more and more and more twine to make it even thicker, to make your stem really thick. Okay, so let's see how that's looking. Don't be afraid to muscle it and you know, like work it until you get it looking how you want it to look, okay? Not how other people want it to look, how you want it to look. Okay, I think that's about it, because if I keep stuffing it too much, it's gonna not have enough like variety of bumpiness, which I want it to have. And then after we stuff it and like fill it all in and everything, close it up, you can still manipulate it and get it how you want it. Okay, so I'm gonna get more twine on my needle again, because now we're gonna go ahead and close up the top of our pumpkin. Okay, so now get your pumpkin, and we're going to do the exact same thing that we did on the bottom, but we're now going to do it on the top. Okay. But you're gonna notice because you don't have all the tails like we did on the bottom, it's actually gonna be easier to pull through. Oh, Cashew's crying. But if I let him in right now, my whole camera setup is gonna go falling down. Okay, this is looking good. And as you're closing it up, if you're like, oh gosh, I want more stuffing right here, then you know what? Shove it in there. It's your pumpkin, so do what you want with it. And you can make them like all different sizes. Make some that are small, some that are big, some that are large, some that are mini, and then like display them. Oh my gosh, they're so cute. Okay, this is the one that's on the inside. Ooh, that's closing good. It's so much easier when you're not on the tail side. Okay, I think we're at the point where we need to tie it because it's not closing anymore. Okay, then, oh, sorry about the camera, guys. I almost knocked it over and I wasn't even Cashew. Now, just gonna try and get the needle through, close this up. So kind of just work back and forth over your hole until you're happy with how it looks. Ooh, that was a good one. That closed it up really nicely. So we'll probably just have to do one more right here, and then we're gonna start building up our thickness of our twine for our stem. Okay, so now you're going to take the time to go through and just thread a whole bunch of twine through the top of your pumpkin. Okay, I'm talking a lot, okay? But this time you're not like weaving it. Oh, that was a chunky part of it, but that's okay. I want it to be less of it. We're not weaving it, we're just threading it through wherever you can, like that. Ooh. Told you it's gonna get tough. Come on, you can do it. I might even have to. Oh my gosh! Here we go. There we go. So, and that's it, just pull it through, don't like weave it or anything. Because what we're gonna do is make it really thick, and then we're gonna end up twisting it and making our stem. So that's how we're gonna do it. So you're just going to weave a whole bunch of these through until you get it pretty thick. So it's gonna take me a bit to do this. So I will meet you back over here once I get them all pulled through. Okay, so now that we have all of our hair filled into our pumpkin, we are ready to make our stem. So what I'm gonna do is I like to twist it and just let it naturally fall how it wants to when you twist it. And you can do a couple of things. Like you can have it where it like kind of twirls like this, and then you kind of just let it do its thing. Or you can do it more of like a stem where it's going to be up more. And that's what I'm going to do. So what I'm going to do now kind of figure out where you want it. And then you tie a knot at the bottom. And then you're basically just going to weave that around, but this is a bit too unruly for me. Just a bit too much to manage. Okay. So just kind of loop it around as many times as you want. So you're turning, while you're turning it, you're winding it around your stem. No, don't get all that. That's what happens when you don't clean your crafting station. It starts messing up. So take your time and just go around it until you get it where you want it. I don't want it like completely layered on top of each other. I want it to look a little frazzled with pieces of it coming out. But I also don't want it like absolutely coming undone. So I'm actually happy with how it's going so far. There we go. Now, you can leave it more squiggly or however you want to end it also. But what I like to do is once I kind of figure out how I'm going to want it to look, I go back down to the bottom, and that's where I'm going to tie it. And the reason I do this is because then I can weave it back, or not weave it, but shove it back into my pumpkin. And you can still even kind of move it around, how it's going to look when it's like a real pumpkin will look. Now, let me show you what happened to my tapestry needle. So if you have one that's more heavy duty for this, it might be a good idea because I bent this one. And it's my favorite kind too. The ones from Clover are my favorite. So, but I have to finish off this project with this because I am not about ready to bend another one. Okay, so just find a spot through this thick pumpkin where you can pull it through. There we go. Perfect. There. And be careful to not clip your actual thing. And now this is where you kind of just like work it. And dude, look how cute this is. I can't. We made this, right? This is like how it comes off of the vine. It's so stinking cute. Well, I hope you guys had fun making this with me. It's really fun. Like I said, make some big ones, make some small ones, put them out on your porch, put them out on your counter in your kitchen, display with it for the fall. It's a lot of fun. So stay tuned. I have more videos to come that are going to be a lot of fun for you guys. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.